Hello and welcome back to r/entitledparents. And if you're new here, I hope you enjoy.
Entitled parent decides to mess with me in the checkout line. I finally had my Karen in the Wild experience yesterday morning. I live in the southeastern US and we have a popular small box retailer here with a yellow sign and black letters. They are all over the rural south and in many places act as grocery and general stores to the community. I needed to stop and get an item for my vehicle before I ran morning errands, so I dropped in at our local neighbourhood store. Found the item and a couple of other things I wanted and I got in line. I am very conscientious about wearing a mask when I go out and steering very clear of those who don't. The line was fairly long for a Saturday morning and I was then third or fourth customer in the line. This store funnels all customers into a sort of tunnel lined with impulse purchases, lighters, candy, magazines, small toys, that sort of thing, for checkout. And there are 3 cashier stations along the line. Only one was manned at that point. The customer in front of me was a late 30ish woman with a young daughter who looked to be 10 or so. This was entitled mother and okay kid. The kid wasn't so bad. She had a cute dog face mask, but entitled mother wasn't wearing a mask at all. She was pushing a half full cart of items. The kid asks for a candy bar, and entitled mother says it's okay. The kid reaches for a nearby bar of candy, but then entitled mother starts looking at the candy, scanning the rows, and her eyes find what she wants near where I'm standing. Luckily, the person behind me was not only standing at least 6 feet away from me, but had a cart between us as well. So, as the entitled mother came towards me, I started backing away. She kept coming closer and I kept backing up, which she noticed. When my butt had hit the cart behind me, she smiled at me and said, "Looks like you're trapped," and kept coming towards me. Well, I walk with the cane. At that point, I raised the cane so that it was between us and said, "Please stop coming towards me, you aren't wearing a mask." She stopped and laughed and then said, "Are you going to hit me with your cane?" I glared at her and said, "If you come any closer, I will. I am feeling very threatened." She laughed again, then put her hand up to her ear and said, "What? I couldn't hear you. Say again? Your mask is making it hard to understand you," and starts laughing at me. Then her daughter started laughing too. About that time, another employee came over to open the second register, which I was standing directly in front of. Usually, the other employee would say, "I can help the next customer," but instead, she said, "I can ring you up, ma'am," to me. I put my purchases down on the counter and she reached for the first item to scan. Entitled mother said, "Hey, wait, I was next," and started backing up towards me again, with her cart in tow. The cashier said, "Ma'am, you've already passed me. The next cashier will take care of you." Entitled mother didn't like this, but turned back to see the first cashier had finished ringing up the customer in front of entitled mother and had turned her station light off, signalling that she was closed. Entitled mother said, "Hey, where are you going? You haven't rung me up." The first cashier said, "Sorry, I'm scheduled for my break now and I'll get written up if I don't go on time," and walked away and out of the door. Entitled mother is now fuming and turns back to the second cashier. Entitled mother waits for my cashier to be done with my purchase, then starts to back up again. This makes it impossible for me to leave as we are in that tunnel, and I said, "Ma'am, you're going to have to move forwards and leave the tunnel so I can get out." She stops and says, "Oh, just squeeze by me. You act like I have the plague or something." I looked directly at her and said, "As far as I'm concerned, you do." She huffed and pushed her cart forwards and out of the tunnel, and I was able to squeeze by her safely. Behind me, I heard the cashier start ringing up the customer behind me, who had a pretty full cart, and I turned and said that the line behind me had 5 people in it now. The entitled mother yelled, "Hey, I was next!" And as soon as I was going out the door, she turned her buggy back into the tunnel the wrong way. Then I heard the cashier say, "Ma'am, you can't come back in here the wrong way. You have to get back in line." Unintelligible barking came from the entitled mother as I went out the door. I admit it, I was grinning behind the mask. As I was getting into my vehicle, the first cashier was around the corner of the store having a smoke break. She finished her cigarette, put it in the ash pot and said, "I hate people like that. We love messing with them. I'm sorry that she bothered you." I laughed out loud at that point and said, "Hey, this will make for a good story." She laughed too and went on into the store. No idea what entitled mother did after that, but I noticed as I passed her when I left the store that she was wearing a scrub top for a local paediatrician's office. Think I might make a phone call on Monday asking them how they feel about one of their staff terrorising those in the community who choose to wear a mask and socially distance. P.S. ladies, if either of you read this, thank you and I appreciate you for being there for us. And our next story, give my kid your PS5 or you've ruined Christmas. So the other day, I, 30 male, got lucky and managed to get hold of a PlayStation 5, which are like gold dust in the UK at the moment. Work has been ridiculous this year, and my PlayStation 4 broke a few months back. To say I'm hyped for it and some holiday downtime is an understatement. The console finally arrived the other day and I was left with my neighbour. I knocked on the door, thanked them for taking the parcel and exchanged some pleasantries. When she casually asked if it was anything nice, I told her it was a PS5. We had the usual small talk and I went back inside, thinking nothing of it. Later we had a knock on the door from her husband, who was about 38 years old. He said that his wife had mentioned I had got a PlayStation and they wanted one for their 7-year-old son. It was all his son wanted this year, and it's been a tough year for his son as he's not been able to see his friends much. So they asked if I would consider selling it to them for what I bought it for. I said I understood, but I really didn't want to sell it as I was looking forward to playing on it. That's when things got a little bit weird. He huffed a little and said Christmas should be about kids and I should really consider how hard it's been for them, and then he offered me an extra 50 quid. I said I wouldn't be selling it for any price. I wasn't looking to make money on it, I just really wanted to play it. He left, but said he hoped I'd reconsider as you and I are a bit old for video games anyway, and walked off. End of story, I thought. The next day, he comes over again, this time with his son. He said his son really wanted to see the PlayStation 5 he had heard about. The boy then said to me, that's what he really wanted for Christmas and hoped Santa would get him one. I replied that hopefully he would, but it's really busy for him this year so you might have to wait a little bit longer, but if not, I'm sure he'll get something nice instead. Another day passes and my fiance said how they'd posted something weird on social media about, well, this was on a neighbourhood group anyway, how they had thought 2020 would have made people less selfish and more giving, but they were disappointed in their neighbourhood who had forgotten their community spirit, and how people should have been more thoughtful towards the children in the street given how much they've all suffered this year. Off the back of it, my fiance asked if I should sell the console, just to keep the peace. Later in the day, they came around to tell me that I had promised their son he'd be getting a PlayStation for Christmas, and now his Christmas would be ruined if he didn't get one. She said that I'm an adult and I should be thinking of kids at Christmas, not acting like one playing video games, and that I was unbelievably selfish and cruel. He added that he didn't know how we could enjoy Christmas knowing we were horrible people and had ruined a 7-year-old's Christmas. Now, I've also heard from some people on the street that they've been talking crap about us to people, but we're definitely getting some daggers from the Mums Who Lunch crew. We're living in a super nice neighbourhood, but it's firmly middle class. Lots of private school kids called Hattie and Sebastian, etc. We're definitely the youngest on the street, and the weird childless couple, which I don't think PlayStation 5 Gate is helping with. My fiance just wants to sell it to them and end it, but I'm still trying to hold firm. Am I the antagonist for avoiding my trans sister? Me, 15 male, my sister, 15 female. This is a throwaway account because my sister knows my main. My sister has been transitioning for about a year at this point. I have tried my best to be supportive of her in any way I can. For example, I call her by her new name, and I've introduced her to some of my female friends because I guess she'll need their support. However, my sister has been very upset with me recently because I no longer share my private information with her. So for example, I don't tell her my crushes. I also refuse to roughhouse with her. This is something my parents support. When I was younger, my dad used to get upset if I roughhouse. This is something my parents support. This is also extended to my friends. Now that she is a gal, we no longer feel comfortable telling her about how hot a friend looks, etc. What I don't understand about her being upset by this is that when she was a boy, she would not have said those things to a gal either. I do think she is being hypocritical. My closest female friend, who is now very close to my sister, has told me that she thinks I am punishing my sister. I think that's nonsense, because it's not as if I tell those things to any other gal. I really don't think there's any antagonists here. You're just treating her like how she wants to be treated, like you would treat any other gal. But I think it's worth perhaps talking to her, because I think she is heavily looking for your support, especially if you were close beforehand. Vive la vie says, not the antagonist. You're not uncomfortable because she's trans. You're just uncomfortable because you're a squeamish teen boy, and now you have a sister. And it's weird talking to girls about things you'd normally only talk about with guys. Maybe that's upsetting her, but I say she just needs to get used to the idea that some of her relationship dynamics are going to change.